Today is 9th of November 2013. Dhamma Savana, or listening to the preaching of the Dhamma, is one of the 10 meritorious actions. So, when we listen to the teaching of the Dhamma, we must have good intention in order to get the benefits. There are 5 benefits of Dhamma Savana, or listening to the preaching of the Dhamma. The first benefit, we can get new knowledge of the Dhamma, or in other words, we can hear what we have not heard before. Then the second benefit, even we have heard before, the knowledge can become clearer. The third benefit, we can clear our doubts. And the fourth benefit, we can get right understanding. Then the fifth benefit, by listening to the teachings, it can calm our mind, or our mind can calm down, become peaceful. So only when one listens to the teaching of Dhamma with the intention of getting these 5 benefits, then this is truly called Dhamma Savana. Sometimes the Dhamma listeners attend the talk with other intention. For example, when one hears that in such a Dhamma talk, one can listen to a lot of jokes or humorous story, then one is interested, very eager to attend such talk. So if one attends a Dhamma talk with the intention to listen to the jokes or the humorous story, then this is not Dhamma Savana. So when we listen to the teaching of Dhamma, we must have this good intention to gain these 5 benefits. Sometimes one may be listening to the same topic of the talk again, but one should also paying attention at that moment. Sometimes one could miss certain important points in the previous talk. So sometimes one may have to listen, for example, on the teachings about the practice of meditation again. Sometimes by listening to the teachings on the practice once is not enough. So only when one has listened to the teachings on the practice, then one put effort into practice, and then one listen to it again, one may gain a better understanding. Similarly, when you practicing mindfulness meditation, vipassana meditation, you are mindful of the same phenomena again and again. In the sitting meditation, you may be mindful of the movements of abdomen again and again, or you may be mindful of the sitting postures, touching points, painful sensation, various kinds of mental states again and again. Similarly, when you are practicing walking meditation, you are mindful of the same phenomena again and again, or the standing postures, the movements of the foot, left, right, or lifting, pushing, dropping, touching, pressing. Be mindful of the various kinds of mental states and so on. Similarly, in the mindfulness of daily activities, meditators could have be mindful of the same activities again and again. If meditators regard all these phenomena, all these mental states and physical movements or sensation are the same thing, then they may not be attentive to the objects or to the phenomena. So meditators have to see every object or every phenomenon that's arising at that moment as a new object or as a new phenomenon. So only when you see something new, then you could have more interest in the practice, in your awareness or mindfulness. If there's an object arising, for example, pain or numbness, then meditator think that this is the same pain or the same numbness arising again. Then he may think this pain or numbness is also not permanent. Then he cannot really gain any knowledge or experience or when he mindful of the pain or the numbness. So that's why we always emphasize meditators should live at this present moment, or be mindful of whatever object or phenomenon that's arising at that moment. So the most important thing during the should be done by the meditators is to develop the mindfulness, to strengthen the mindfulness, or in other words, to sharpen the mindfulness. Whenever meditators mindful of any objects, the mindfulness has to be attentive, energetic and precise. So meditators have to be mindful of one object or one phenomenon, whether this object is a mental object or physical object, or just be mindful of one object at each moment. Sati or mindfulness is also implies, mindfulness also implies full awareness or full attention. So in other words, at each moment meditators pay full attention or full awareness to one object. At the beginning of the retreats, meditators may not be able to pay full awareness or full attention to one object at each moment. It's because at the beginning of retreats, the mind could be quite restless, or mental hindrances could be arising again and again. So as you know, there are these 5 mental hindrances that hinder the progress of mindfulness, concentration, and insight knowledge. The first hindrance is hindrance of sensual desire, or the second hindrance is hindrance of ill will. Then the third is a hindrance of restlessness and remorse, and the fourth is a hindrance of sloth and torpor. The fifth is a hindrance of doubts. So as long as there are hindrances arising in the practice, for example, during walking meditation or sitting meditation or mindfulness of daily activities, then meditators cannot attain deep concentration or purification of the mind. So purification of mind means the mind is purified from these 5 kinds of mental hindrances. So all these hindrances are mental states. So when any one of the hindrances has been arising, meditators should be mindful and note it as it really occurs. When any hindrances arising, even meditators perceive that hindrance is not strong, meditators also should be mindful and know it as it really occurs. Meditators should not wait until the hindrances becoming stronger and stronger, then only be mindful and note the strong hindrance. So during the practice of mindfulness meditation, it's important to be mindful and note every mental hindrance, every mental defilements, or whatever mental states that's arising at that moment. Be mindful and know it until these mental states disappear by itself. So when meditators practicing mindfulness meditation, meditators have to be mindful and note every mental state. So it's different from the practice of samatha meditation or concentration meditation. For example, when you're practicing metta meditation, which is an object of samatha meditation, if there's a feeling of sleepiness arising, then you should ignore that feeling of sleepiness. You have to put more effort in the developing of the loving kindness. So this is a very important difference in the practice of between the vipassana meditation or mindfulness meditation and samatha meditation. So in the practice of vipassana meditation, we want to realize all the mental states and physical phenomena in their true nature. Only by realizing all the mental states and physical phenomena as they really are, then meditators could make more and more progress. But in the practice of samatha meditation, the purpose is to gain deep concentration, or such as neighborhood concentration and absorption concentration. So samatha meditators concentrate the mind on one object all the time, in order to attain deeper and deeper concentrations. So in order to attain deep concentration, if the mind is wandering away from the object of concentration, then samatha meditators will bring the mind back immediately and concentrate on the single object of concentration again. But in the practice of vipassana meditation, be mindful of every mental state. It is very important. Only meditators could be mindful of every mental state. Then the concentration will become, the mental states such as thinking will become less and less. Then the concentration will become stronger and stronger, or deeper and deeper. Actually, during the practice of mindfulness meditation, there are many thinkings arising that could be arising in between the mindfulness. But sometimes meditators could not perceive this thinking. The meditators could be thinking that he or she is still mindful, did not see or perceive the thinking or arising. For example, sometimes meditators perceive something new, an object he never mindful before. So he may thinking, oh, this is a new object. So this is the thinking itself. Or sometimes, as he mindful of the movements of rising, falling, then the way of movements change. Then he may think, oh, the movements begins to change. So this is also another thinking. Or sometimes the meditators may be thinking whether he or she has been sitting more than 45 minutes or more than 1 hour. So this is another thinking. So it is important to be mindful of every thinking, analyzing, or thinking about the experience of the meditations. Only when meditators could take whatever object or phenomenon arising at that moment and be mindful as it really occurs, then meditators can make more progress. In other words, the interest of the meditator or the concern of the meditators just to be mindful and note whatever object that's arising at that moment as it really occurs. So meditators should not even think how to be mindful and know it. Actually, what should be done is just know it as it is. So thinking is a great hindrance to the progress of meditation, especially mindfulness meditation. So meditators should be careful about the thinking, analyzing mind, and so on. So even during the practice, meditators should not thinking about the interview or keep in mind what should be reported during interview. He should be putting the effort, all the effort in mindfulness. Meditators should go for the interview with mindfulness. Then only maybe about 10 or 15 minutes before the interview, begin to recall back whatever experiences he or she could remember. So that your mindfulness could become more and more constant, continuous for the whole day. If meditators put enough effort in the practice, it is possible to have constant and continuous mindfulness almost for the whole day. But sometimes meditators could not practice mindfulness in more details. For example, in the washroom or in the bathroom, meditators could not slow down very much. This is because these facilities are shared with others. So at that times, meditators practice the mindfulness. For example, be aware of the movements, actions, without any mental noting or labelings. But at other places, as long as meditators do not obstruct the practice of other meditators, then meditators should slow down and be mindful and note the movements or the activity in more details. Meditators may be mindful some of the process of movements, for example, lifting up the hand, note it a few times, lifting. But the most important is to perceive the actual process of the movements. So only meditators can mindful and note the movements in more details and other phenomena attentively, precisely for a period of time. Then meditators could gain some degree of deep concentration and experiences. For example, if meditators could mindful of every physical movements, every objects attentively, precisely for the whole morning or for about 4 or 5 hours, meditators may gain some new experience in the meditations. So effort is very important. Meditators should always be mindful whatever object that's arising at that present moment. So meditators should not even think what will happen, what will be happening in the next moment, or what had happened in the previous moment. So meditators' concern is only at that present moment. That's why meditators have varieties of objects to be mindful of. Vipassana meditators cannot be mindful or concentrate the mind on the same object all the time. For example, meditators mindful of the rising movements, mindful of one process of rising movements, then another process of rising movements, another process of rising movements. Actually, every process of movements is a new object or is another phenomena. But because we have been living in this conceptual world for so long, so we may think the process of the same process of the movements is arising again and again. Similarly, when meditators mindful of pain, or sometimes the painful sensation has disappeared, then another painful sensation arising again, then he may think the same painful sensation is arising again. So when meditators think the same pain arising again, or the same process of movements arising again, then the mindfulness could be not attentive anymore. So in fact, when meditators mindful of one process movements, so when one process movements has disappeared, then another process of movements arising, so this is another new process. So meditators should be very mindful of the next process of movements. So when So when one process of movements has disappeared, then maybe the next object is a strong painful sensation. Then meditators should be mindful of that strong painful sensation. So meditators cannot keep the mind on the process of movements all the time. When one process of movements has disappeared, the next object arising could be another process movements or a strong sensation or a mental state of thinking. So meditators should not predict or forecast what object will be arising in the next moment. So meditators cannot really choose the object he or she wants to be mindful. So meditators could have this experience only when they could attain deep concentration. Only when they can attain deep concentration. To attain deep concentration, meditators must be able to overcome the hindrances by mindfulness. When meditators could overcome any of these hindrances by mindfulness, then the mindfulness will become, the strength of the mindfulness will become stronger. Then only that the insight knowledge has the strength or the power or to penetrate into the true natures of mental and physical phenomena. So the scripture said, if the mind of the meditators is overpowered by the 5 mental hindrances, then the insight knowledge, the insight is weak or not sharp. When the insight is weak, then meditators will not be able to realize any path knowledge, friction knowledge, and enlightenment. So when one is overpowered by the 5 mental hindrances, then one does not know one's own true good or what's benefit for oneself or what's beneficial for the others or for both. So only when the 5 mental hindrances are overcome, then the insight will become powerful or penetrative. Then eventually one could realize the Magga Phala knowledges and enlightenment. Then when the 5 mental hindrances are overcome, then the insight is clear. Then one knows what is good for oneself or for others or for both. So in one of the suttas or discourses give various similes to these 5 hindrances. The similes of sensual desires. The text says, just like water in a pot mixed with various kinds of color, or yellow, orange, and so on. So a man with a normal faculty of sight, looking into it, could not properly see his own image or his own face. In the same way, when the mind is overpowered by sensual desire, then one could not clearly perceive or realize the escape, the way to escape from the sensual desire, or one does not properly understand what's good for oneself or what's good for others or for both, or one could not realize the teaching. So ill will, just like a pot of water heated on a fire. So the water is seething and boiling. Then restlessness and remorse, just like water in a pot, stirred by the wind, agitated, swaying, and producing waves. Then the slough and torpor, just like a pot of water covered with moss and water plants. And the doubts, just like a pot of water, which is muddy, turbid, and the pot put in a dark place. So this water is not clear. So when one look into it, one cannot clearly see one's own face. Similarly, when the mind is overpowered by these five mental hindrances, the mind is not clear, it's not energetic, it's very sluggish, dull. That's why when meditators could mindful and note the mental state, for example sleepiness or sluggishness, until that mental states of sleepiness or sluggishness disappear, then meditators could feel the mind becomes clear, bright, and energetic. So by mindful of these mental hindrances until they disappear, meditators also gain the knowledge or wisdoms, realizing that these mental hindrances are not permanent. When they realize these hindrances are not permanent or impermanent, they also realize that they are not satisfactory, and since these hindrances are not permanent, not satisfactory, they are without self, or in other words, not self, anatta. So by being mindful of these hindrances as they really are, you gain knowledge or wisdom. So in this way, do you think that it's better to be mindful of the hindrances rather than turn the mind to concentration in order to suppress the hindrances? So what do you think? Which way is better? So you should be mindful. Be mindful. So if your mind is restless, then you change from vipassana to samatha. For example, by practicing loving kindness meditation, you may be able to suppress the restlessness, but you cannot realize the mental state of restlessness in its true nature. So it's better that you be mindful. Only be mindful. You gain the direct experiential knowledge by yourself. You cannot gain this direct experiential knowledge by listening from others or by reading or thinking about it. During the practice, the only things that you have to do is to be mindful all the time. So only with mindfulness, gradually you gain concentration and knowledge or wisdom. So only with mindfulness, the wholesome states will be increasing and increasing. Only with mindfulness, the wholesome states or the wholesome mental state will be increasing and increasing. So the first thing that meditators have to do is to develop this mindfulness, so that the mindfulness is attentive, energetic, and precise all the time. Or in other words, meditators are able to pay full attention to one object or phenomenon at each moment. So at which meditators will put strenuous effort in the practice, strengthen the mindfulness, sharpen your mindfulness, so that eventually you gain purification of mind and penetrating in the true nature of mental and physical phenomena, and it realize the truth, the teaching.
สาธุสาธุสาธุ